Blake, you're going to educate us. What is
Yeah.
it that what do we need to know? What's going on
All
this week?
right. You know what, boys? I'm not one to know everything. Definitely not. But what I do know is I like myself a good cinematic gaming experience. And it just got me thinking. It used to be such a common thing. Like video games back, when there wasn't awesome graphics and etc. and super awesome, design and all this stuff going into games, they did a lot of full motion video. There was lots of just clips and stuff. There were games based completely around that, but I just wanted to talk about it with you guys. And I guess we'll start with what are your favorite cinematic experiences in video games, and conversely, the worst. So
Well, I love, and I think this is such a great topic because one, on so many levels, like people would talk about when I was growing, and I'm talking like when bits were a thing, like Nintendo and Sega days, like people would talk about how it ruins your imagination, but those graphics were, I mean, they were great for us at the time, but they weren't so great that you had to make up your own story kind of, so they built up the imagination. I always thought, and I remember thinking at those times because that's when the licensed video games really started coming big, and the whole like, you wish you could play the movie, you wish you could play the movie, which
yeah.
led to eventually the David Cage stuff came out, like Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. But by that point, it seems, and I think it's funny, Blake, that you say that you enjoy, because you seem like the type of there's those people who hate those games. They
Yeah.
can't stand those games, and I don't get it. Like I played Detroit Beyond Human. I got it like day one. I got it when it came out. I loved it. I thought it was great, and yeah, like you have only so much control, I guess. But you're kind of prompted to make decisions. Like it doesn't tell you what decision to make, but this is what when I was a kid that I would think about when I would think about playing a movie. Like
Right.
it's a movie playing out in front of you, and maybe it's 20 or 25 minutes of you watching the action, but you're controlling the movie. It's I love cinematic movies, and my favorite one, I guess, is to me, the first really, really big one was Heavy Rain, which I enjoyed the hell out of. I played it so many times, and you play it to make everyone survive, you play it to make everybody die, which takes about 10 minutes. You play you play to where three people survive, and you do it. Like I loved all the endings and ways you can get to the end, and the directions the story would and wouldn't take. Like I love Firewatch. Like
Oh,
Yeah.
Firewatch is a great, great experience.
I love those. And that game, you like jump, like
Yeah.
read notes, and that's it. And I love
Yeah.
that stuff. I think it's cool. I every time I see Walking Simulator, and people are always derisive about it. I think like, well, in Baldur's Gate, like you would, which is a great game, but you can control the party, or you can set the party to where the AI would just fight for you, and you would
Yeah.
do
Oh,
nothing
You
at
just
all.
watch. Yeah. You just
Yeah,
watch.
it's the same shit, and people love Baldur's Gate for good reason. It's a great game, but I just never understood. Like, I love cinematic gaming. I don't understand why people hate it so much.
Well, the funny thing is, I worked in a video game store for a long time, and I don't think you met me at that time, Pat, but Blake
hell yeah.
knows that for sure. But I think the thing with with people not liking cinematic, I think they wanted to have more of a, it's that the control, like they want to make sure that they're the ones doing a lot of these things. I think when the quick time events happened or started like being the more popular thing, like thanks to like Devil May Cry and all these like third person like action games, I feel like they were like just not able to do a lot of stuff. But I feel like the first times like I remember seeing like cinematic gaming, like and I feel like cutscenes, like because I guess I always wanted to play like Wing Commander and all that stuff. Like I
Hmm.
remember like wanted to, like this was like actors on this, and even like a Command and Conquer, you had like
Oh yeah.
these really cool like moments, and it wasn't just like it was a cutscene, and you got to like experience like 15 minutes of just like, or not even 15 minutes, I'm probably exaggerating, like 5 minutes of these like monologues, like
Yeah,
and
I
it
mean
was,
acting. I mean, you're
yeah,
talking Wing Commanders, Mark Hamill,
yeah,
Malcolm McDowell. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like
uh
actual movies.
and like the biggest one that I barely got to play like maybe 2 3 years ago was Night Trap,
Oh,
from
sure.
this.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was gonna get brought up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
an
I
interesting one.
it's super interesting, like, and you know what, like it's kind of a letdown in a
It
way.
is. I agree
Yeah.
with you. Like at the time, because I had a Genesis and I was like so into that. Like I really, really, really wanted to play that game.
Hmm.
And then I did it until years and years later. But by the time I had played it, like it was after GTA 4, I know that. So I'd already seen cutscenes and graphics had improved to
Yeah,
such a degree
yeah.
that
And
Night
the idea
Trapper,
of seeing a girl in a bra is less exciting.
there's that too. Like it would have been awesome in eighth grade. It's not the same.
It's not quite the same anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dano Plato was dead also. So there's that.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Jesus. So Dana played Margot Kidder is in a game that I wanted to talk about. So
Marco, Lois Lane?
yeah, yeah, I think let's see, what was it? It is yeah, it's so that's a perfect segue actually. So when I grew up, like I was like probably like I was born in '83. So by 1993, this is like the first wave of like the 486DX computers that like the home PC was like actually kind of affordable for some families and a lot of these games were coming out on PC. And so from 91 to like 95 was kind of like the sweet spot to me. And so the first one on my list, actually, no, it's the second one, but we'll start there. Under a Killing Moon. It's a Tex Murphy adventure, which
Yeah.
these are like noir. You're a
Yeah.
noir detective, grizzled noir detective story. And the cool thing about these is they're completely cinematic. They have live action, live actors doing all the cutscenes, and they're cool because they kind of just rewarded you with those cutscenes for solving puzzles. And they're kind of like click around the screen and discover things, and but more or less you're solving puzzles. You get rewarded with the game and or with the cinematic. And that's kind of like there was a bunch of games like this. Seventh Guest was another one that was like really really popular. But yeah, Margot Kidder was in this Under a Killing Moon. She plays a bartender, believe it or not. So, um, yeah, Seventh Guest. I think that was like I would say that was probably like the first one. It's 100% cinematic. You're kind of discovering. You're just unlocking a story, and like you're talking about with like Being Human or like Until Dawn. They're kind of like choose your own adventure novels.
Hmm.
And I always loved that kind of stuff. Another one that I really liked was Gabriel Knight. The second one actually is called The Beast Within, fully cinematic. It's really campy and like ridiculous at times, but it was such a fun experience. Like if I was sitting there watching my brother play these things, it didn't I was enjoying it just as much to sit there and watch him play, over his shoulder because I mean it wasn't an action-based game. These games were telling you a story and I really 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 love when a game goes out of its way to just tell you a great story. Firewatch, perfect example of that. I think there's some other ones in there like I think Dead Space was like
Yeah.
a really really cool story,
So
and it loses track. But go ahead, Danny.
So no, yeah. So like when Dead Space was coming out, what I liked about that game, it took a lot of inspirations of the horror films that we grew up with. Like it has, the same kind of tension that Alien had. It has like,
Mm.
in the whole like vast of space, there's like no noise, which makes it even more tense, and everything is like danger is like almost everywhere. And I'm like, I think when that game came out, I think I remember pitching it to be like, what you need for this game is a really good surround sound
Mm,
because
sure.
it's going to be coming out at any time. And they're like, they didn't understand how horror in a game would work because
Yeah.
this was the first time that something like this was, I think, being made. And so I remember people just coming back and they're like, what the fuck is this game? Like, what's going on? Like, how do you, like, how, like, the question was always like, how? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this is the movies that you need to watch, and you will understand how it will work. And I think Alien like is a huge influence for like Dead
Oh,
Space.
Dead Space for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of borrowing and stuff, you know, that gets used in video games. But like, I don't know. Sometimes you can actually see like the direction is done like a movie instead of a video game. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah.
I always appreciate that. But there's a lot of different experiences out there. Pat, you and I were talking about board games. This is probably in the same era, like 1990, what, two, three, four, right in there. Um, there were some board games. So you had a couple actually that you utilized VHS.
I guess you can say we had three, but I mean they were one. So we had VCR WrestleMania, which was it was a straight up just a board with like a Monopoly board, just nothing intricate. It's just a square. That's all it is. No twists, no turns. But occasionally you would land on a square, or you would draw a card. that would say play tape. And then you would play the tape and it'd be a segment of a match. And that's mainly why I got the game, was to get these clips of matches, because they were this is before pay-per-view, or at least in El Paso there was no pay-per-view. So
Mhm.
they would show, yeah, they show a little bit of a WrestleMania here and there, but you couldn't rent that. But they would show these house show things that I mean, I couldn't see a match from the Philadelphia Spectrum, so I could watch it on this thing, and it'd be Hulk Hogan in white, which is just, everyone associates him with the yellow and red.
Yellow,
So
yeah.
it was really cool. But the game itself was like, there was just two colors. I mean, it's simple. You can only be two players, red and blue. One wrestler would be assigned blue, one wrestler would be assigned red. They would show like a 3-minute clip, and they would do like a body slam or a headlock or something. The person who was doing the move, they would get points, and the person who was taking the move would get 0 points, or sometimes they would lose points. But it was really easy to win because it's a videotape. So once you've seen it one time, like, that's it. So
That's the inherent problem with these
yeah.
things.
So if anyone ever challenges you to VCR WrestleMania, pick blue, because they show the end of the Hogan Andre match. Hogan gets the pin, 20 points for blue right there. But the reason I said we had two or three is because we also had VCR Clue, which is the traditional classic Clue board game, except it has VHS tapes. But the reason I said we had two or three is because there was a blue box, which was one case or one set of case. There was like, I think, 4 or 5 on each tape, and then we had a red box, which was a different set of cases. But it still had the normal Clue board, and it had the envelope where you would guess who it was and stuff like that. But the clues were on the videotape, it was fun. I mean, obviously these games you can only play them one time, which is kind of, and the acting, it's, they weren't getting it wasn't Martin Mull and Madeline
Right.
Kahn included. This was the community theater performing, but they were cool. I mean, when you're a kid, and you like Clue or wrestling or whatever the case may be, they were really, I thought they were groundbreaking and incredibly fun, and I just would brag about it to everybody I knew.
Oh yeah, totally. I remember getting so excited. So the one I had was called, I guess my brother bought it. It was called Nightmare. And I think probably that's one of the most common. It was like most widely available. And so like it was like a horror based. Like there was like this crypt keeper guy. So you put in the tape, and you played the game, and you did dice, and then you would, when certain things would happen, you would play the tape exactly kind of like what you're saying. And I remember playing through it once with like my brother, and I was like, oh, that was awesome. And so like I got like my dumb friends together, and we we played, and like about 5 minutes into it, I was like, oh, it's gonna go exactly the same way. I was like, oh crap, you can only play this game one time. It's so funny that they didn't think that through.
It's really funny too, because the thing I remember, I don't remember how much the WrestleMania Clue game was, but I remember the VCR Clue things were $10. So that's how we convinced our mom to get them. We were like, look, they're videotape, but they're cheaper than the board game. But that's because the board game you can play forever. But
Yeah,
VCR,
yeah. The only thing I guess I could really had was like Trivial Pursuit, like the Disney edition to all
I
this.
love Trivial Pursuit. Oh, they had one with videos. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
they had one with videos, and it was like, like you have to guess the scene, but like it worked like a normal Trivial Pursuit. It just had a DVD or something like that. I can't even remember.
Oh,
Like,
DVDs actually were cool because DVDs had software so you could actually manipulate them to where they weren't the same all the time. But yeah, the
yeah,
DVDs changed that around a lot. Actually, when I was looking up stuff, I was like, holy cow, there's like a lot of different DVD based board games. I really didn't actually realize that, but they're more into the interactive style, not so much the cinematic stuff. But
yeah.
I guess that kind of leads me to my last question on the subject. Really, is we all seem to be fans of it, but and I do think there should be more, I guess. But do you guys think there should be more of this kind of stuff out there or less? I mean, I feel like there's a lot. I mean, like Last of Us just came out. That was pretty much one of these things, and and it was meant to like mixed reviews. So I mean, how do you all feel?
I think that Last of Us 2 is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
But and I think that there's a very, very, it's easy to cross the line with cinematic. So and full disclosure, I'm not a big Metal Gear fan, but what was the last one? Not Sons of Liberty. I like that one. The
Uh,
Patriot, shit, Phantom Pain.
No, before Phantom Pain, the fourth one, the one that
Ground
was supposed
Zeroes.
Oh, page.
before Ground Zeroes,
Jesus,
the
who cares?
the something of the Patriots, I think. I don't know, but
Guns of the Patriots.
Yeah, Guns of the
Guns
Patriots.
of the Patriots. Yeah, it was on the PlayStation Store for like $10 or something, and I was like, you know what? I'll just give it a try because I've heard this is like one of the greatest games of the generation. This is in the PS3, so I read about it. I read about the timeline for Metal Gear because all I played was Metal Gear on the Nintendo, and I had played Sons of Liberty on Xbox, and that's it. So I knew nothing about the story. So I read about it and knew even less than what I did when I knew nothing. Uh, I I boot up this Metal Gear Solid 4, and it starts with like I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it has to be a 15 to 20-minute cinematic.
I think
You
it's
finally
longer
get
than
to
that.
play.
Half an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like half an hour. Yeah.
It's and then you finally get to play, and there's like these giant mech things, and you play for like I don't know 5 maybe 10 minutes, and then it goes right into another like 35-minute cutscene,
Yep.
and I was just like I'm done with this game. Like that's the only time I ever played it. Um, Ground Zeroes, that one it's not as bad, but Phantom Pain because that one was free also on the PlayStation Store. I just couldn't. Beautiful looking, and I mean, I guess the characters look cool and stuff, but it's really easy to cross that line. Whereas I haven't played Last of Us 2, but the first Last of Us, it's a very good mix of cinematic storytelling. The GTA games, for
Yeah.
some
Totally.
people, as silly as they are, I think they mix story, cutscenes, and gameplay very, very
I
well.
agree.
Well,
Red
I
Dead
think,
too. Yeah.
yeah, Red Dead, yeah, like the Rockstar Games do a really good job of like mixing that cinematic experience. Especially like, well, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, like take it to a whole new fucking level for sure. Like
Yeah.
those are exactly what you want. You get your 30 minutes of gameplay, and then you get your 5 minutes of like cutscene or whatever's happening. um I think that's what I want, but I think with Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto 5, it was just everything was just happening at the same time. So I feel like there was a lot of things happening in
Yeah.
this small little game, and you're just like trying to like observe everything or absorb everything.
Right, and there's also something to be said for games that aren't as cinematic because there was a point where isometric RPGs were like the thing.
Mhm.
People love. Well, I guess they were very, very popular among a certain
Diablo
crowd.
3 is still like probably my most played game ever. Like,
And like the Pillars games are huge. I mean, people
yeah.
still talk about the original two Fallout games, but
Mhm.
one of the things about those games is they're the text is so intimidating. They are so
Yeah.
text heavy, even for someone who enjoys reading. I mean,
Right.
it's daunting. So, Wasteland 3, they've added some cinematics to them, but what they've done is instead of having these like pages and pages of like 10 lines of text, answers are shortened to the point. Like the longest conversation I've had was where I've had to, and the voice it's voiced now. That's cool, but I'd say they go maybe instead of going 5 or 6 pages, it'll be tops 3 pages, and you rarely get to that third page,
Mhm.
and it's like 2 or 3 sentences. Like it's shortened to the point, but it gives you the exposition and lore that you need. So it's a thin line. I still think there is a place for that
Well,
lack of cinematics and text-based
Yeah.
gameplay.
yeah, for sure. Like I still think like Final Fantasy, like before we got to the more modern ones, I guess. Like I do really think that that was for me the most cinematic like experiences ever. Like I got emotion and excitement throughout. Like I think the 6 games that I got to play before we got to like the PlayStation 2. Like
Yeah.
those were that like the text is what got me going. Like it was a book, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm excited. Well, I mean, I definitely want more of this stuff, and I think, and I guess we could just close out on this. Like truly, I think Witcher 3 did like one of the most perfect blends of what you're talking about, Danny. Like that was like excellent lore. There was more stuff. If you want to read stuff, there was more to it. And then the cinematic stuff that they had done. The voice acting was great. All that stuff was really awesome. And I'm really excited to see what that CD Projekt Red does with Cyberpunk. That's an opportunity. Keanu Reeves is obviously in it, so it's definitely going to be more of a cinematic experience. I think at times than I think even people realize. So I'm
Yeah, that's on everyone's most wanted list, I think.